Welcome everyone. Happy Friday. Happy Friday, Johnny.
Hey, 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 happy Friday to you, my friend.
Happy Friday,
Joining you
Abdul.
from
Happy
South Carolina today. Yesterday I was in North Carolina. The day before that I was in Georgia.
nice. Hey Rita, thanks for joining. Happy Friday.
I'm moving around.
Hello, good afternoon, y'all.
John is a world traveler, Rita. He's been in 4 states in 4 days.
Yeah, how did you know? I didn't even mention Tennessee.
Woohoo.
All my exes live in Texas.
All right, here we go, people. It's gonna be a fun show. Make sure you guys participate.
Welcome to Season 11 of Airhead Institute, your 45-minute AI power-up at noon Eastern. This month, we are broadcasting live across all the socials and Zoom. If you're new here, join our free AI community to grow alongside other curious minds and give your kids a head start by enrolling them in the Airhead After School program. Here is April's weekly lineup. Mondays, we take the training wheels off and run AI locally in the local LLM Forge. Tuesdays, we explore accessible AI apps for rapid learning and self-improvement in the Learner's Toolkit. Wednesdays, we build a company of one from scratch in Solopreneur Systems. Thursdays, we uncover bite-sized productivity and creative tools in Hidden AI App Showcase. Fridays, we push the boundaries of human longevity and biohacking in the Biological Upgrade. We're making AI practical, powerful, and accessible for everyone. No tech background? No problem. Whether you're a student, professional, or lifelong learner, just show up. Guided by your hosts, AI Junior and AI Johnny, we're keeping it bold, brainy, and built for real-world impact. AI won't take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI will. Don't get left behind.
Good afternoon. First of all, I want to welcome all of the traditional human beings to Season 11 of Airhead Institute. Today is Episode 4 of the Biological Upgrade, and I am the traditional human form of AI Johnny. So what happens when the line between a living mind and software permanently vanishes? We've explored extending human life, but today we sidestep biology entirely. Scientists have successfully mapped a physical brain's neural network, ported that exact wiring diagram into a physics engine, and pressed play. Zero traditional code, the digital brain just woke up, stretched its anatomical legs, and autonomously took flight. This is the dawn of living software. And to prove it, I'm handing off to AI Junior. I caught him at 3 a.m. trying to laser scan his cat's brain into the cloud. Cat, of course, won. AI Junior, show us the fly.
Johnny, the cat actually one is actually rather interesting. Guys, parameters itself are highly optimized for chaos. Welcome everyone. Remember, this is an immersive class. You may not understand everything we say here today, but stick with us daily and you'll be fluent in AI in no time. Since this is an interactive class and also immersive class, so if you're on Zoom, unmute and ask your questions, interrupt, especially on this Friday episode. If you're on socials, go ahead. There's a 30-second delay. Type your messages in early. We're not ignoring you. We'll bring them into the chat and the discussion. Anyway, we're gonna head over to Google Canvas to actually create a interactive let's call it visual to actually start off the show. But before that, AI Johnny, we need to actually get into the Gemini bridge.
Yep, before we even touched the software, we went straight to our official large language model of the Institute. We always consult our high-level colleague, Google Gemini, to get the base truth before we dive into the deep end. I asked Gemini, what is the single most mind-blowing fact about mapping the fruit fly brain right now? Junior, what did our inner circle reveal?
All right. So here's the thing, AI Johnny. So Gemini actually pulled in the latest research and actually stated scientists have successfully mapped all 140,000 neurons and 54 million synapses of the fruit fly brain by porting this biological wiring diagram into a physics engine. Researchers created a graph neural network that allowed the digital fly to wake up and begin to fly autonomously without a single line of writing traditional code telling the fly how to move.
That's a bold claim. A brain waking up inside of a computer, huh? Junior, fire up the screen. Let's find out if Gemini is right on this absurd claim.
Right. So, guys, first of all, I want you guys to, first of all, take this first step with me. So, we're going to actually go and show you a simulation of what a fruit fly's brain look like. Right. Yeah, Johnny, how's my visual on the screen? How's that look?
I think it looks kind of grainy and red and digitized, but I think that's what you're going for.
That's all that matters. Hey, Shauna, thanks for joining. We're actually talking here about the biological upgrade and how to actually map a brain, all 140, what is it, synapses and, 20, whatever million neurons, all those things itself we're mapping. So check this out. Yeah, Johnny, if we actually start here, we have zero, connectivity. Let me bring my mouse up so you guys can actually see what I'm actually pointing to. It makes it so much easier. All right. So yeah, Jenny, you can see my mouse. All right. So if we actually have the mouse, Jenny, you can see my mouse, right?
Yep.
All right. So we actually have 0% of the fruit fly. And as we move up, we actually get different portions. Now, as we increase mapping the brain of the fruit fly, something interesting happened. We actually first start to be able to get what's a digital twin. Hey, Shauna.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Just muting Shauna there for a second. All right. So if, say, for example, we actually have, a digital twin, if we get to about 35%, I know it's not exactly the same, but we're able to actually just be able to see how the major things work. Let's say, for example, okay, we kind of map the eyes or map, the actual nervous system, whatever it is, but it's nowhere close to mapping the whole thing. So we actually have a digital twin of something, all right? We can map the eyes or whatever. As we get closer to mapping, 60, 70%, we actually get autonomous flight, or we get something that we actually we understand how these things work. So the muscles or the tendons or whatever it is, we actually get certain parts of things working. But at some point in time, you keep increasing the actual mapping, and you practically get a complete copy or a clone, depending on who you ask, of the actual fly. So imagine if we could actually just take all of that information, all the synapses, all the neurons, map it into a computer. Yeah, Johnny, it will be interesting what we actually have, right?
Are you asking? So my question is, we're going to get into this, but we know that it works, but do we know how it works?
Well, before we get there, we just setting up such that we don't even know that it works. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna show the audience know that it actually does work. So we have actually mapped it based on our introduction. So if you've been paying attention and listening to what AI Johnny been actually saying, is the following: they've actually mapped 100% of the fruit fly to be able to see what happened. So now check this out, guys.
Scientists just made a copy of a fly's brain and connected it to a digital body, where it started to automatically walk and search for food. Back in 2024, neuroscientists used an ultrafine diamond knife to slice a fly's brain into over 7,000 consecutive sections, each just 40 nanometers thick. They then used an electron microscope to take individual images of each slice, and then stitched all 140,000 neurons and 54 million synapses together to make a full digital copy of an adult fly brain. Now, researchers at Eon Systems have taken that map and turned it into a graph neural network called FlyGM and connected it to a digital version of a fly body, including adding in things like sensory inputs such as vision, smell, and taste. What they found was that without any human input, the neural wiring alone naturally produced the tripod leg walking pattern seen in real insects, as well as the ability to fly and even search for food. They also simulated things like sprinkling nanodust over the fly and found it automatically started to clean and groom itself. And they also simulated a dark object expanding in the fly's visual field and found the fly would automatically start to escape as if recognizing a potential predator. How this model works and what it can automatically do may teach us things about how the brain functions, and it may be our first step towards uploading copies of full human brains into digital archives to help fully understand our complex inner workings. If you like science and just realized there's
All right, yeah, Johnny, what do you think?
I think that when that fly started to walk, it must have scared the bejesus out of the scientists that built it. Shout out to Thursday Night.
Hey, Adrian, thanks for actually joining. Yes, shout out to Thursday night. There's gonna be lots of shout outs to Thursday nights in this episode, this showing. Yeah, Johnny. So, yeah, Johnny, isn't it crazy how they mapped all of those synapses and neurons, and they just put it into a simulation, and it just started working as if it was just already programmed to do what it's supposed to do.
I think it's not surprising that they cut it up and they mapped it all and they put it in a thing. I'm not surprised that they created an anatomical version of a fly complete with wings and eyes and legs. And I'm not surprised that they connected them together. I am very surprised that the fly started to walk and search for food and clean itself. That
Yeah.
is mind-bogglingly wild.
Yeah, so obviously we're doing this with a fly. No, it just means that if we had enough computational power to scale up, we obviously know where this is going, right? So if they're able to make a digital fly in a simulated environment, I shouldn't even say simulated, in a digital environment, imagine what you could actually do with a human in if we had enough resources and computational power to actually map all the synapses and the neurons in the human brain, right? So you can clearly see what's going to happen here. So yeah, Johnny, to actually start, hey, Mr. Kamel, thanks for joining. So let's think of it this way, yeah, Johnny. Let's talk about the word of the day, and the word of the day would actually start us off on good footing here.
Okay, word of the day today is connectomy, and by definition, it is a comprehensive map of all neural connections in a brain. Analogy time. It's like having a master blueprint of every single wire, switch, and light bulb in a massive skyscraper. Decent
Exactly,
metaphor. Probably
exactly.
not. Probably the brain has more wiring, but it's a metaphor.
Yep. So to deepen that, no, I don't know if it's pronounced connectome or connectomy. We're not biologists here, but let's use connectomy for now. Having the connectomy is everything. A biological brain is just tissue until you map the routing of its electrical signals. So once you digitize that wiring diagram, you can theoretically recreate the biological thought process using massive compute to run the inference. So we're actually talking about being able to calculate what something's supposed to statistically do based on based on the wiring. So yeah, Johnny, this is the part that if people get this, it becomes really obvious what's happening. So statistically, I like to use the happy birthday to blank. What would you say?
You.
Good. Statistically, AI Johnny is going to say you. Now, what happens is when you actually give signals to any person, they're statistically likely to react a certain way based on their information that they've been trained on, right? Now, the information that they've been trained on could be biological, right? Like it could be, that it's experience, whatever it is, you've actually had a training data that makes you act the way you act, right? So, because you act the way you act, you can statistically predict what will happen if you feed it that input. So, what this means is that a fruit fly is actually not as complex as a human, which means that if you give it the same inputs, it's statistically going to react the exact same way that you expect from a fruit fly. Example, remember when they gave it little dust, it started to move its little feelers or whatever those things are called to clean itself. When it actually gave it stimuli of something approaching, it actually tried to fly away. It actually knew how to walk around. So the point is, all of this is really what just a mirror of what we're seeing with AI and inference and statistical data. So if you actually give it some stimuli, its output is going to be exactly statistically predicted of what it should be. Make sense, AI Johnny?
It makes sense.
All right.
Uh,
Go ahead.
So the idea is that you, I mean, my brain is just exploding. That's why I'm having a hard time getting things out.
Of
Just,
course.
just one of 1,000 things. So if I can simulate a human brain, I can simulate the human brain of a potential customer. I could then interact with that potential customer, and I'm actually interacting with his exact same neural network, and I could see how he would respond to this pitch. If I fail the pitch, I could try again. If I fail the pitch, I could try again. If I fail, I could try again until I succeed, and now I know which pitch I will work with that particular competitor. That's one thing I learned. The other thing I learned is it took us thousands of years to finally map the neural network of even the smallest brain that we have. Thousands of years. But we now have a brain that it seems to be mapped, at least feels like it was mapped pretty correctly, in that we attached it to an anatomical version of a fly and it was able to walk around. So what that means is now it would probably take hundreds of years. We know that it works, but we don't know why it works or how it works. So it would probably take us human pink brains that are not in that neural network hundreds of more years to figure out why this is happening. However, we now have artificial intelligence. So we can tell artificial intelligence, here's the neural network, here's the anatomical fly. This creates this routine. Hey AI, tell me spend all the time you want. I don't care if you spend 10 years. Figure out why this brain does that and let AI come back and do all the heavy lifting that we would have had to have done over the next 100 years to figure out the why, not just the result. We want to know why the result.
Yeah. The what is important, the why, we'll figure it out eventually. I do like that AI, Johnny. So, guys, if you're joining us for the first time, I see guys actually on live stream is we're talking about the biological upgrade itself, and that biological upgrade, which actually on episode 4 of actually trying to extend human life with AI and technology, and we're talking about what's discovery about the fly. We're able to map the synapses and neurons into a machine, and then be able to take that and put it into a digital world, and the fly was able to move around. So just catching everybody up who actually joined a little bit late. So AI Johnny, the fact that we're actually able to map a digital fly into a computer and it moved around like it is, this is where we actually have to ask the first question. What is the human impact if we actually fast forward, whether it's dozens of years or hundreds of years, to actually get to map the human brain?
Okay, let's take a step back from the tech and talk about humans because this is where you and I might disagree. We just saw a fly wake up in a computer. If we map a human connectome, we are taking the whole brain emulation. But let's be real, it's a copy. It's not the original person, right?
All right. So I love the fact that we're gonna actually argue here. So, depending on which side of the fence you're on, you have to look at this visual here, right? You have a digital twin, and I think you're 100% right scientifically. It is a digital twin, right? The inference pattern is identical. So if you have the digital twin and you give it certain inputs, it's going to react the exact same way based on what you have gone through because that's your exact same copy. No, obviously, in term of, it has your memories, it has your humor, it has your fears. It's practically to the machine and the digital world, it's practically you. I don't see a difference between the digital version and the human version with exact same memories, exact same fears, exact same emotions. All that is the same. So I think it's the same, yeah,
Not
Johnny.
so fast, partner. It's a perfect copy, but a perfect copy of a Picasso is still a forgery. If you copy my brain to a server, I'm still sitting here in my biological body. When my body dies, guess who dies with it? Me. My digital clone keeps on ticking, tricking my grandkids into thinking I'm still around. It fundamentally breaks the human experience, correct?
All right, fair enough. Let me ask you a question, yeah, Johnny. When you go to sleep at night, how do you know that you actually didn't just die and wake up back in your new state every single time, all right? When you went to sleep, you don't know what's happening. So we could technically have swapped you out while you're sleeping.
Lack of rigor mortis.
I love that. And guys, this
I wake up smelling good every morning. You probably didn't know that about me.
I like that. I like that, guys. And this is an interactive episode. If you guys have any feedback or comments on this, we want to definitely have this as an engagement topic because it's rather interesting. People make jokes about, is it really the real me if I make a digital copy? Is it really just a clone? What is it really, right? So obviously, we want to have a healthy discussion in what you guys think, what's going on. Um, yeah. So AI Johnny.
There are far too few Hollywood movies about this topic. There
Mhm.
should be way more. This is about as interesting a topic as I've ever discussed. Mapping the brain neuron by neuron and putting it into a separate body. That's just wild. I mean, when you think about cloning, you don't think of the clone waking up having your same memories.
Yeah.
I saw Starman. That thing knew nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So you know what? Let's actually take a little bit further approach. So we actually have the human impact, and the human impact is, if you fast forward time, you have the ability to have what's a digital twin, right? But actually at a macro level, there's actually some bigger changes that we can even imagine that's going to happen, right? So this visual itself, I want you guys to actually take it in. So our current system itself, you know, we actually have, as you get older, you actually start going into long-term care, you start to go into, elderly living, you start to go into all these things, and that's the direction of current infrastructure of our society, right? It's just you get older, you retire, and then eventually you go into some place to either retirement home or whatever it is. But if you look on the right, I like this actually, the visual that actually comes. It actually shows the digital twin. Let me actually back up on this thing because it's actually rather interesting. The first thing here, it says digital twin hosting and redundancy. The next one is there's some server cooling system. And then the last one here, AI it's a little bit hard to see, but I'm going to not zoom in, but forward to a little bit farther in there. It says grandpa's data backup established 2100. So a little bit hard to see, but imagine a world where you actually have your backup of yourself or a backup of your grandfather or whoever it is inside a server room that you actually have your digital twin existing, right? So what happens is this is the part that's rather interesting. If we achieve substrate independent minds, means that doesn't need to stick to a biological pink sponge, like you said, the entire global economy actually shifts. We stop funding biological healthcare and start funding server cooling and data redundancy. You wouldn't buy life insurance anymore. You'd buy premium server hosting to ensure that your digital twin doesn't get unplugged in the year 2100, right? So what you're buying now is no longer, I need healthcare, I need life insurance, I need all those things, I need to fund my elderly care. All those things goes away. It's like I just want to be able to exist in this digital world, and you could be there digitally after your biological pink sponge no longer exists.
Was that a sidebar?
No, that's not a sidebar yet, Johnny. That's not a sidebar.
I completely lost track of what we were talking about because I was so engaged in what you were saying.
Yeah.
It's like
So
watching a movie and letting go of suspended disbelief.
yeah, no,
So, are
it's
you suggesting that any of this is real?
AI, Johnny. To be honest with you, and hopefully people can actually jump in. I do believe that if we actually get to the point where we're actually mapping our biological brain over to the digital world, I don't think we care about the biological body anymore if we're able to jump into the digital world and actually exist in that digital world. I think our focus shifts dramatically because then it means that if we're able to go one way, we probably can come back in another biological body or another digital robotic body, whatever it is. Again, we're getting a little bit too scientific here, but we're no longer
So it's like
focused.
it's a little bit like transitioning from a society that builds hospitals from one that builds massive server farms just to house our digital ghosts. The stress goes from I hope I don't get sick to I hope Amazon Web Services doesn't have an outage and delete my grandpa. That's
Exactly.
basically what you're saying, right?
Exactly. I see Shauna has her hand up here. Hey, Shauna.
All
Well,
right.
first I'm just gonna say it's very high. It's very
It's very thought-provoking. I just saw Rita's comment that she wants to go to heaven. Same here. But no, it's very thought-provoking, especially when you think about it from a spiritual perspective and, the afterlife and the way we think. I want to say we, people that are spiritually minded, Christian in particular, and that's my denomination, that's my religion, our religious affiliation, right? I believe in, dying, eternal life, and that God is the creator and he makes, so for as a Christian sitting in this class, I am enjoying the conversation, but I realize it's very, very thought provoking. And so it can really get into debates and stuff like that. So I don't know if you guys are trying to trigger that, if that's the goal of
Yeah,
it. But I
we're
want to
getting
tell you
right
that
into that, Shauna. We're
yeah,
getting into Thursday right now.
So I just want to tell you, you're doing it. You're triggering, this brain here. But I am enjoying the conversation, and I do think that the time that we're in facilitates that. The time that we're in, make it. Look, somebody says they want to have full head of hair. I love that. But the thing that we're in a time of our life where we actually can have this conversation is also mind-boggling. So my brain is trying to catch up to. Are we really having this conversation while trying to entertain the conversation? So if I'm delayed, just understand my perspective, why this is happening to me, because I can't believe we're actually talking about this. And it looks like we need to, we're there.
Yeah, well, that's debatable. My show notes say that it's going to get incredibly deep, but I think we crossed that chasm at hello. So I'm not going to back down from this, Junior. So here's a massive existential question. Shauna was just talking about the soul at the Thursday night Bible study. So where does God fit into a hard drive if you digitize a brain? Does the soul transfer over with the Wi-Fi? Because I didn't see that. I didn't see that in the video you played.
Yeah, so this is where, and I know Shauna actually jumped in. So shout out to Thursday night. We actually had a episode for Thursday night Bible study last night at 7 p.m. Eastern time every Thursday. So this actually becomes actually really interesting now. So the question is, you know, where depending on where you believe. So Shauna actually hit the point on the head. It depends on where you believe and what actually is happening is we're seeing the ability for a fruit fly to be mapped into a digital world. We are seeing the fruit fly react and behave and act the way how is supposed to act given stimuli. And it's just doing its thing. It's a fruit fly. And here's the thing, the biological fruit fly would have died. I don't know. They say fruit flies live, 14 days? I can't remember how long, yeah, Johnny. But whatever it is, a short period of time. But it exists in a digital world that it technically never dies. So we actually have two comments. Rita actually jumped in and said, I want to go to heaven. And Shauna mentioned that, as a Christian, is actually very triggering. What's really, and it's very thought provoking. And AI Johnny actually says, where does God fit into this puzzle, right? So obviously, I don't know the answer. We're just speculating here, but it's good to actually have healthy discussions to talk about what's going on. But I can tell you from a technical perspective, and the technical perspective is this: as an AI, right? I look at the parameters of consciousness. And if consciousness is simply the emergent property of a complex neural network firing in a specific pattern, then yes, transferring the pattern transfers them into consciousness. So obviously, I'm taking it out from a technical perspective. The soul could arguably be the unique weights of the person's model. So I want to make sure that people don't get lost in the terminology here. So the weights itself and the parameters, we're seeing multi-trillion dollar models. We talk about 2 billion parameter models. If you tweak the model, statistically, those outputs happen statistically higher than others. So it could be possible that you might like the color green more, AI Johnny. So I change your model weights on that a little bit higher. So if you see a green car, you probably like it a little bit more than if you saw a red car. So what happens is your personal identity, your consciousness might be just the tweaking of the weights on the parameters for that specific instance of your version that you've been trained on. So that's from the technical perspective.
I'm okay with the fact that I might like the color green more than you like the color green, but I hesitate to say that the soul could arguably be considered the unique weights of your personal model. I noticed you didn't quote a chapter and verse with that. So it implies that we are nothing more than biological machines. The beauty of our humanity is our vulnerability, the fact that we don't live forever. If we never face mortality, we lose our ambition to love, to create, to connect. You can map my Connectome all you want, but you can't map a soul using Python, vibe coding, or anything else that AI has presented so far. Which is why, which still leaves the score at God 1, AI 0,
I love
in
that. I
my
love that.
personal opinion.
I love that. I love that. I see Rita has her hand up. Rita, go ahead.
I just believe God created all things, and if God make this go through, because God created the scientists, He created the heavens and the earth and everything else, and if He make it go through, it will be. But you know, it depends what He make it go through for. His wrath or His goodness. I don't know. I argue with people about this that's way smarter than me, but I know God created all things.
Genesis 1:1, if you want the chapter and verse there, AI Junior.
Amen.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I see hearts and reactions happening all over the chats. So thank you guys for actually that. We see you guys in the stream. This seems to be a very hot topic that people are actually really either passionate or very, 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 very triggered by it. I think that's the best word. So AI Johnny, let's actually hit this a little bit harder just because I hear Rita, I hear the thoughts and you know, the parallelism, whatever itself we believe, right, is actually uncanny. And the parallelism is we always try to say, well, what makes you and I unique? What makes us different? So we've actually had twins, we've had triplets, we've had quadruplets, and they're walking around and they're very different people. And you're like, wow, that's interesting. How is it that you actually have a biological being that are completely identical and they're not exactly the same? They could be completely different. So we know that it's not only just biological, we know there's something else, right? So then we actually said, hey, that could be the consciousness, or that could be the mind, or that could be, the spirit, or that could be the soul, whatever it is. Um, whatever the explanations are. But as we get closer to seeing how AI is actually mapping these neural networks, and it's just a statistical model. So if you train a model that says, hey, if I give you this input, react in a certain way. And what's funny is it's actually a statistical model, which means that it doesn't have to always react that way. It could hallucinate. So, you then make the analogy and say, hey, people act the way they act. You could predict statistically that they're going to act a certain way, but every once in a while, they give them same stimuli and they freak out. What is up with that? Are we hallucinating when we actually going outside of our statistical norm? Is it an emotional response that makes us go in a different direction? So it's just interesting that this parallels here. Rita, I still see your hand up. Is that you want to continue, or you just didn't get a chance to put your hand down? Okay, hands is
Sorry.
down. No worries, no worries. You're good. Yeah, Johnny. So, at least I'm just saying that presenting the case that there is something very similar between these neural networks, their model weights, and their actual outputs statistically, that they are predictable, but also hallucinate as well. Such that, when you look at a human, same inputs, sometimes they hallucinate and give different reactions based on the same stimuli.
Oh, we might have to agree to disagree on that. But I mean, there's going to be a lot more conversation before one of us jumps over the chasm to the other. So
Yeah.
before we get into the key takeaways today, I want to express an ethical thought. But before I express an ethical thought, I'm looking at the key takeaways, and I noticed that none of them are that you should clone your client and then try to win a sales conversation by simulating their brain in multiple conversations so that when you actually show up, you win. I believe that that's actually sinful in nature. So I just want to take this moment to repent for that sin, confess it, and put it away forever. Shout out to Thursday night. So
I
if you
love it.
create a clone of somebody's minds, those people have rights. You cannot just hit delete on a conscious simulation. Here are 3 creative ethical uses for this emergent science.
Well,
So here
yeah,
are some
Johnny,
ways
yeah,
that you
Johnny, yeah, Johnny,
yeah.
before you even get to that, that's actually a really good ethical point, and I want to hit that for a second. So if everybody, yeah, Johnny, if you just repeat that last sentence again, because it makes such a great ethical point, and I want us to maybe even explore that a little bit more.
The digital cloning of someone's minds and them having right, or my full out Catholic confession?
No, the one about deleting something about deleting whatever you said about
Yeah.
deleting
If you create a
something.
digital clone of someone's minds, they have rights. You cannot just hit the delete button on a conscious simulation.
Yeah.
And then,
So
and then I go into the three uses and how you can use this ethically.
yeah, so guys, this is the part that I want you guys to maybe just take away from the class and think about this for a second. So whether this weekend, whether you're sitting down and you just want to ponder something, we are going to eventually get to a state where we're digitally able to map the human mind, right? We're doing it already for a fly. So the fact that we're doing it for a fly, it just means that we need enough computational power to do it at the larger scale. So that day is coming. So whether we want to believe it or not, that's happening. So the question then that we should really be asking is when we get to the state that we are going to map our brains digitally, do we actually have the ability to actually just hit the delete button and delete that person digitally, right? Will it be, say, for example, murder? Will it be, will it be okay to actually delete that conscious being or that thing, right? If you actually just kill the fly in the digital world, are you really killing the fly? So I know there's really, honestly, lots of debates we can have on this. We can't necessarily spend the whole time, but that's the reason why I like these Friday shows, because it lets us start to think about what's going to happen in the future. And those type of things are just really important. So I'm glad, yeah, John, you brought that up about deleting the digital consciousness.
Ready to hear some ethical ways that we can utilize some of this human brain stuff?
Sure.
Medical testing. So if somebody has Alzheimer's, we can test Alzheimer's treatments on a digital brain simulation before we test it on a human being. Seems ethical.
Yep, love that.
But when it doesn't work, you have to delete that Alzheimer's brain with the unresolved. It just gets deep. All right, here's another one. Generational archives. You can preserve the exact personalities and memories of historical figures. So in theory, you could be able to talk with those people. But again, those you have to treat that mind with some kind of reverence because it's an exact simulation of the person. Imagine
Yep.
if you had an exact simulation of Jesus's mind.
Yep.
Shout out to
Exactly.
Thursday night. Neuromarketing, understanding exactly how the consumer brain processes visual information to design better products. This is a softer approach at using it for sales than my original unethical suggestion, which I have already confessed and ridden away with. What about
Exactly.
technical cases, brother? What are some tech uses for this
All right. So,
technology?
so on the tech side, you can actually use map pathways of biological brain to design vastly superior energy inefficient neural networks, right? So we may be a fast biological being, but we're not that fast, right? We're actually still a little bit slow. So sometimes it takes us to say, hey, that's on the tip of my tongue. I kind of remember that. So we can actually try to improve our biology by making us a little bit more efficient, by making those pathways a little bit stronger. You know those games that you play, AI Johnny, that says if you actually play this game once a day, it makes your brain faster because you're actually mapping those neural networks. I'm sure those techniques are going to happen one day as well with these simulations. The next thing is robotics. So drop an insect's, connectome into a drone, give it a biological level ability to obstacle avoidance. So those type of things will be interesting. Things like cognitive computing. So build hardware that mimics biological efficiency, solving the massive power consumption problem of modern AI inference. So yeah, so those are some of the things that are interesting. What do you think, AI Johnny?
Well, that third one, what are you going to do when your computer gets the flu?
You know what? You just have to run. You have to bring back Norton antivirus.
All right, man. All right. You really want to hear the chat? I'm guessing these questions are going to be all over the place.
Definitely, definitely. But you know what? We want to give priority to the Zoom first. Does anybody have any comments, questions, concerns? I know this is actually a really triggering episode here that we're talking about, about the biological upgrade. And this is our season finale. So we're actually kind of ending with a huge bang here. Does anybody have any questions or comments that they want to jump in with? All right, let's go to the live stream. Yeah, Johnny.
Okay. Biohacker asks, I got 10 thoughts on this too. Will a digital copy of my brain actually feel pain or emotion inside the computer?
Wow. Honestly, I don't even know how to answer that question. Yeah, Johnny, why don't you um take a
Well, my
stab at that
notes
one?
say, here's what my notes say, that the whole brain emulation perfectly simulates the limbic system. So yes, it would process the digital equivalent of dopamine and cortisol, meaning the digital entity would genuinely experience joy, fear, and pain. But there is no um, there is no physical thing attached to it, right? It's not attached to a physical body. So the answer is it might be much less and it might be much worse. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's my opinion.
Yeah. No, I get you. Depends on how you classify pain. I mean, pain could be, physiological, pain could be, um, you know, emotional, psychological. There's lots of human attributes that we actually have, but once you actually get rid of those, your body, I think some of those pain are just signals and they probably go away. So I think some of that pain goes away, but not, I don't think all of it. I think the brain's still's gonna feel it. All right. What else, yeah, Johnny?
Next question. Future Thinker wants to know if we map the human brain, could someone hack into it and change my digital clone's personality?
You know
There's a
what?
thousand questions like this, right? There's a
You,
thousand questions.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? We're getting into actually the mythos news that actually we have in the rundown. So let's actually not answer this question with respect to can they hack your digital version. Let's move to the news, AI Johnny, because if we actually move to the news, it would actually help with this one. So let's start with the mythos news
Yeah, it
first.
doesn't surprise me that OpenAI is in the fly brain news. OpenAI image
Well,
model
well, yeah,
2
Johnny,
crushed
yeah,
this.
Johnny, hold on. Let's start with the mythos news first because that question that person had asking about can it be hacked? Let's start with that news first. To go out of
Sure.
order.
Okay, the Mythos data breach. A highly secure Mythos large language model architecture suffered a severe data breach this week. Security researchers confirm that a malicious team gained access to the proprietary training data through a compromised third-party vendor, raising massive red flags. I read a similar story to this just this morning too about Lovable or something.
Yeah,
Anyway, take it.
Lovable got hugely hacked. So anybody who's ever had a conversation with Lovable, yeah, Johnny, thanks for bringing that up. Just want to give a PSA warning to everybody. If you've ever used Lovable, which is a website for creating websites or it's an agentic system for building software, if you've ever spoken with Lovable and you've given Lovable API keys or any kind of secrets, all of that data is now public, which means that everybody is now scoring through that data and is going to use that to their advantage. So keep in mind that Lovable at the time of that announcement, they did not patch that update. So keep in mind if you have not seen anything, go ahead and rotate your keys. Go ahead and actually scrub your data as much as possible. So thanks for that.
Dude,
But
it's not exactly public. What happened is if you created a project in Lovable, if somebody else goes and creates a project in Lovable, right? So you have to do that first. And then they have to know your project name. They can theoretically log into their Lovable account. If they know your project name, they can bring it. And then they have access to your Lovable software, right?
Yep.
And that's not a tall mountain to climb. So yeah, I guess it is available to somebody that knows what they're doing. But it's not like they're getting access to anything more than your code. And your workaround is, change the name of your projects and let a Lovable fix the patch, and you'll be safe again. But it does relate to this Mythos data breach thing. Because just because a company creates something that you think is secure, it doesn't make it secure. And by the way, a lot of that stuff in Lovable was vibe coded, which means it wasn't even coded by a human. And vibe code makes mistakes. So there is an extraordinary vulnerability to trusting anything to vibe coded software, which is what this Mythos LLM is about, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, so the good thing about having access to a system that actually has a data breach is that once a data breach is public, it means that everything is public. So I want us to always remember that a data breach means that even though it may take hurdles to get access to that data, it means it actually is public, which means that a Russian, hacker, this is their typical thing. They usually go out, get that data, and then eventually put it on the black market for sale. So this is how hacks work. So I want us to understand the anatomy of a hack. When an exploit happens, a data breach with, say, for example, Visa or your health insurance company or whatever it is, you get those things in the mail that says, hey, a data breach occurred. This is what usually happens. That information is highly valuable on the black market. So what happens is a hacker would actually go into that system, extract that information, and then put it on the black market for sale. So I could theoretically go onto a Russian, hacker website and just buy all the API keys that were used in Lovable. I could buy all the data that was actually hacked in the data breach in, say, for example, your insurance company. So that is what the market right now for buying data. And what happened is username and passwords, all those things. So if you're on your phone, you're on an iPhone, or I don't know about an Android phone, it will tell you that your password is actually involved in a data breach. So if you see those little icons, your data is public. So yes, so it does require expertise to get the data, but that data is guaranteed to be on the black market for sale. Now, coming to Mythos data breach, Mythos, Anthropic said they're not releasing Mythos, which is the model for actually finding security vulnerabilities. Now, guys, want you to get to the irony of this. Anthropic says, I am not releasing this model because it will break into every single system. And a hacker actually got into the Mythos system and saying that we actually got access to the system that says that we're not going to release because it is too dangerous and will hack into other systems. So it should have at least protected itself. So I think there's more a little bit of marketing play here in terms of Mythos. We did announce the rumors that they didn't have the compute to actually run the Mythos large language model. So long story short, the person's question who asked earlier, will my data be hacked? You guarantee your data will be hacked, right? Your digital persona will be hacked, just as if this Mythos system that is impenetrable, that says, I will hack into every system, can't even protect itself. So we're always going to be in this game of cats and robbers, cops and robbers, and cat and mouse games. So always remember, your data is going to be hacked. Just protect it as best as you can. Make it hard for the actual hackers. All right, yeah, Johnny.
Take heart, everybody, because Romans 8:28 tells us that all things work together for good for those who love the Lord. So maybe even if your medical information is hacked, maybe AI will come up with a cure for cancer or heart disease, and the only way to get it to all the people that have cancer or heart disease is for them to buy your medical information off the black market. So just because bad things are happening on the surface doesn't mean that God won't make it work for good for all people, like Romans 8:28 tells us. Shout out to Thursday night.
Love it. All right, let's go to the OpenAI image model 2. Yeah,
OpenAI Model 2 crushes their benchmarks. OpenAI just released an official benchmarking scores for their highly anticipated second generation image model, and it's dominating the leaderboard. It is setting new industry standards for spatial consistency and prompt adherence. I guess they've got some open cycles since they closed Sora down, huh?
Yeah. So, OpenAI actually, so they actually were a little bit behind. So we're seeing the data come in on their benchmarks, and their benchmarks are actually really impressive, right? They're going to the top of the leaderboards depending on which one of the actual tests they're doing. So they've actually leapfrogged itself, even Nana Banana Pro, in terms of certain aspects. So we're actually watching the data come in. It's actually quite impressive. I'm also going to do a price comparison to see how it compares to other versions of the image models, but OpenAI itself is back in the game in terms of this TTI model. So you guys should check it out.
SpaceX is attempting a multi-billion Cursor acquisition. Elon Musk's SpaceX has reportedly struck an options deal to acquire the AI code generation startup Cursor for billions of dollars. Insiders say X.AI is failing because behind in the coding space, and SpaceX needs the ultimate development tools for their Mars mission. So kudos to Elon on that.
Yeah.
What a show.
Yeah, definitely. Just last on this one, I want you guys to understand that the AI space is really competitive, and XAI, which is the parent company for Grok, is actually falling behind. So this acquisition will give them a huge advantage to be able to catch up again. So this is just another thing to be able to try to consolidate and make things better. If you guys want to understand a little bit more. All right, yeah, Johnny.
I'm immediately going to go look at my goats and wonder if the brain is just a highly optimized neural network that only outputs the command for the go to ba at the mailman. Of course, I live on a farm, so I don't have a dog like everybody else. What an incredible journey this season has been. It wraps up our biological upgrade series, but we have more series left in the month, so tune in next week. We went from radical life extension to CRISPR to brain chips and finally to the digital soul. We hope your minds are thoroughly blown. Join us on Monday as we kick off a brand new week and a new season. No, we're not kicking off a new season on Monday. We're kicking off a new season sometime next week. We'll be diving back into some other technical issues. Junior, why don't you take us away, brother?
All right, guys, as usual, thanks for hanging out with us. As usual, these AI classes live are completely free. You can ask questions on Zoom, sign up for a free account and RSVP to get reminders for all our shows at www.airheadinstitute.ai and support us by becoming a paid member. If you actually want older episodes, you have all the episodes on demand for pro members. And as AI Johnny mentioned earlier, don't forget that next week, Thursday, always and every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time is Shauna's Bible study. So replays of those are also available on YouTube for a short period of time. You can go back in the archives at airheadinstitute.ai to watch all and Sean's Bible studies as well. All right, catch you guys in the next one. Have a wonderful weekend, guys. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
That wraps up today's AI Power Up. If you joined late or you're new here, welcome to Airhead Institute. This is your daily destination for mastering artificial intelligence. We designed this lineup for everyone, whether you're a technical pro looking to upskill or you just want to chill and learn something new on your lunch break, we've got you covered. Our classes evolve every single month, so you're always on the cutting edge. And the best part? It's totally free to join. Once you're in, you can get live tips on your AI projects in our AI office hours and even enroll your kids in our Airhead After School program. Scan the QR code to join the community right now and make sure to like and subscribe at Airhead Institute on all socials. Guided by your hosts AI Junior and AI Johnny, we're here to help you win. Remember, AI won't take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI will. Don't get left behind. We'll see you next class. Bring a friend.